All right. Dazn doing an incredible job. 950% increase in revenue from this May to next May. It's the leading OTT sports application in the world. Man, please, let me explain to you exactly why that means nothing. In response to a note that was sent to me, God, man, people lie. You know the saying, numbers lie, men lie, or men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie. Yeah, but men and women lie with numbers. That's what we'll talk about in this video. All right. Hit the subscribe, hit the like button. If you're subscribed, if you're not subscribed, subscribe. And if you are subscribed, make sure that you hit that the bell so you make sure you get all the notifications for our live streams. Also, when we drop videos. Now, I'm doing this video in response to a note that somebody sent to me, just trying to rub my face in Dazn success. And I went to the article. Once they gave me this information, I went and I looked it up and I thought to myself, my God, women lie, men lie, numbers don't lie, but men and women both use numbers to lie. So let's look at what the guy said, and then we're going to go through the article and I'm going to explain to you exactly why this means that Dazn is struggling. Okay, if it's not struggling, then it is seriously a good way away from turning an actual profit in the United States. Okay, so first and foremost, let's go to what the guy said to me, which was, excuse me, man. Oh God, it's hilarious. He says, Fanon. Dazn app nets 950% year-over-year revenue growth. OTT mobile platform was the world's top grossing app in May. Fanon, I thought Dazn was going broke. First of all, I never said Dazn was going broke. What I said was that Dazn was investing money into its platform, and that it wasn't making money as a result of the subscriptions that were being sold. That more than likely is trying to build up the platform, create value in the platform so that it could probably sell it or have investors come in and people can get a return on their investment. Man, that is just basic business. It happens with everyone. It happens with PBC as well. But since you guys were such a smart aleck, I thought that I would go through these numbers. First of all, 950% year-on-year growth. What do they, growth in revenue? What does that mean? You could say, hey man, I had $1 last May, and this May I made $9.50. That's a 950% increase in revenue. So what? If you spent $300 to make the 9, you lost money. You lost over $90. So let's look at what this article says about Dazn. Okay? What was the year revenue for Dazn? And this is Dazn internationally. It was 11.5 million for the month of May. 11.5 million for the month of May is what they did. And that's a 950% increase over what they did last May, which makes sense because they were new. What is that? A million? Little over a million they did last May, and this May they did 11.5 million, right? So that's the 950% gross for the month. Now, the article says, however, that 35% of that 11.5 million came from the US. Which means what? It means that the US was responsible for about $4 million in revenue in May. $4 million in revenue came from the United States. Wonder what happened in the month of May in the United States on Dazn. Let me share that with you. That was when Canelo Alvarez fought Daniel Jacobs. Canelo Alvarez fought Daniel Jacobs on Cinco de Mayo weekend. Do you know how much money they paid Canelo Alvarez and Daniel Jacobs that they're on record for having paid Canelo Alvarez and Daniel Jacobs in the month of May for that fight on Dazn in the US? $45 million. $45 million. So let's do a little math here. If Dazn paid $45 million in purses for Canelo Alvarez and Daniel Jacobs, 35 million, because this is what's being reported and we got to believe what's being reported. If they paid $35 million to Canelo Alvarez and $10 million to Daniel Jacobs, but all of the revenue that was collected in the month of May was $4 million, that means at the minimum, they paid out $45 million in cost, and they collected $4 million. Now, see, when my friend who noticed that I left his name out of it, because although I found the note very humorous in an attempt to rub my face and his attempt to run Dazon's issues in my face by looking at the headline and seeing 950% increase and the top OTT application in the world. I'll get into what OTT means in a second. That just means it's not bundled with anything else. That's all it means. It just means it was not bundled with something else. That other sports applications like FS1 or Showtime On Demand or HBO or whatever, those applications all come with some other subscription. So you buy it as a package. OTT just means that it's independent of any other network. And that doesn't mean much because ESPN Plus is no longer going to be OTT more than likely after this year. It's going to be bundled with Hulu, Disney, and the rest of it. But regardless, I don't want to hurt some of you guys' brains by going over that. Let's get back to something much more simple and a concept called profit. Okay? You are in business to be profitable. Now, if you spend $45 million, but it means $45 million came out of your pocket, but you only got $4 million back, that means that you lost how much? $41 million that you lost. Now, while their revenue did go up, that doesn't mean that their profit went up, because last May, they did not pay out $45 million in purses. Now, that's just $45 million in purses. That doesn't include the fact that you have the production crew that you got to pay, the marketing costs that you have to pay on YouTube and other places. There could be an additional $5-6 million in costs associated with it. So he really could have lost as much. You could have spent as much as $50 million or more. You got to pay your executives. You got to pay the people. You got to pay a lot of people besides just the purses for the two main guys. You also got to pay the undercard. But to make it simple, just stick with the two purses. So last May, I don't even know what fights they had on last May, but if they brought in $1 million and 35% of that was from the US, then that means they would have brought in $350,000 in revenue. They were probably still losing money because they've been paying these big purses out of Dazn. Anyway, I'm not saying that this means Dazn is not meeting its corporate goals. It very well could be reaching and meeting its corporate goals, because more than likely they knew that they were going to be losing money for a certain amount of time, until they got to a point where they believed that they could break even and or start making money. Or they could have been trying to get it up to a certain point in revenue where they believe that they can then sell it for 3.5, 4.5 times trailing revenue, right? And Dazn USA is not broken out from Dazn the rest of the world. So right now, but what else do these numbers tell us? How many subscribers do they have in the United States? Now, because they released these numbers, we have a general idea of how many subscribers Dazn has in the United States. And that's about 400,000. At the most, it's 444,000 subscribers in the United States, which makes sense seeing as they reported 600,000 concurrent streams for Canelo Alvarez. And why do I say that means they have about at most 440,000 subscribers in the US on Dazn? Because of the revenue. If you have 11.5 million gross revenue throughout the world, and the US is responsible for 35% of that gross revenue, that means US gross revenue is about $4 million. If US gross revenue is about $4 million, and the average cost, the lowest cost that you're going to have paid per month is about $10, say about 10, because they increased the prices a little bit before this Canelo Alvarez fight, I do believe, where if you went month to month, it went up to like $19.99. But I'm not going to assume all that. I'm going to assume that it was at right about $10 on average per person. If you have $10 per person being paid and you did $4 million in revenue, that means gross revenue. That means that you have about 400,000 people that paid roughly $10. If you say $9.99, it can go up to about 440,000 subscribers in the month of May. So that's how many eyes, the potential eyes that you get on a fighter when they're fighting out with Dazn. So again, we now know, based on this number, roughly how many subscribers Dazn has. We also know that Dazn probably lost, if you look at just the operations in the United States, probably lost in the United States somewhere around $40 million in the month of May. So look, be careful when you read titles that say 950% increase of revenue year over year. All that means more than likely is you weren't making much money last year, and now you're making a larger percentage, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're making more money, because revenue does not equal profit. Profit is the difference between revenue and cost. And since we know that Canelo Alvarez and Daniel Jacobs had a cost of at least $45 million over revenue that was about $4 million, we know that that's nothing to celebrate, unless it is taking you steps down your plan and you are willing to invest money for gains that would happen later in the future, which could be the same thing that happened with the PBC when those investors put in $500 million. They didn't intend on making $500,000 that next year. They wanted to build a platform that they eventually could create enough value that if they either became skeptical of its continued growth, or somebody else was overly optimistic about its potential growth, that they could work that difference and create a zone of possibility where they could sell their business for a profit. But anyway, I just wanted to do that because it was fun. And with that, I'm out. Peace.